Chapter 26, Return to Peace Market, Trouble Arrives. The so-called evil chi is the malevolent and vile aura released upon the death of living beings. Righteous cultivators usually avoid it at all costs, while demonic cultivators often seek it out. For a demonic cultivator like Chu Xuan, evil chi has a wide array of uses. It can be infused into magical tools, employed in offense and defense, and even utilized in cultivation. Setting up the Gathering Evil Array at the Haodai Hotel served two purposes: to gather evil chi for his own use and to automatically repel intruders who tried to penetrate deeper into the mist array. It was midnight by the time Chu Xuan had both arrays properly arranged. With the Gathering Evil Array in place, along with the corpse puppets he had left behind, it would be difficult for anyone to infiltrate the Haodai Hotel. This secured his base of operations. Could this place be considered my cave dwelling? Chu Xuan suddenly chuckled. Who would have thought that my cave dwelling wouldn't be on Mystic Azure Realm but on a post-apocalyptic planet? Moments later, he returned to the rooftop. He stood long and bowed back in the tower. You will command the 6 corpse puppets and the 2 dogs. After I leave, guard the Haodai Hotel well. If you're hungry, go out and hunt zombies, but don't stir up trouble. Not if you understand, Chu Xuan instructed. Roar, roar. Who responded in a deep voice, nodding repeatedly. Its intelligence had grown significantly over time, now comparable to that of a 7- or 8-year-old human child. It understood everything Chu Xuan said. Chu Xuan felt reassured about leaving Hu in charge. Hu was his first corpse puppet and the most stable and obedient. After one last look around, Chu Xuan retrieved the blood mirror from his storage bag. The mirror's energy was fully charged and ready for use at any moment. He had only delayed his departure to ensure everything was properly set up. Chu Xuan gently touched the blood mirror and it abruptly engulfed him. In an instant, his figure vanished from the rooftop. Hu growled softly, suddenly feeling a sense of loss. Its master had left, gone far away. Now, it was up to Hu to protect the master's cave dwelling. It resolved that no evildoers would come near. In Mystic Azure Realm, within a cavern, Chu Xuan's figure appeared without warning. He surveyed his surroundings. The last time he departed, it was from this very cave, then occupied by bear. Today, it remained unchanged. Sensing the area, Chu Xuan detected no presence of cultivators nearby. He retrieved the array flags set up previously and pushed aside the boulder blocking the cave entrance. Instantly, sunlight streamed in, the air clear and the breeze gentle. He took a deep breath and the rich spiritual chi filled his lungs, refreshing his spirit. I have 3 objectives this time, he mused. First, to purchase a cauldron suitable for concocting foundation establishment blood pills. Second, to acquire the various spiritual herbs needed for the pills. Third, to purchase a high-quality flying magical tool. Using a technique to alter his appearance, Chu Xuan headed towards the Peace Market nearby. Indeed, he was returning to Peace Market. Since the Divine Star sect had already scoured the area once and raided the Wu family estate, they were unlikely to take further action against the Peace Market. Thus, it was safe. Once again, he arrived at the market square. The market was as usual, unaffected by the grand schemes of the major righteous sects. At most, it provided some extra gossip during meals. This time, Chu Xuan adopted the guise of a noble young man with a striking appearance. However, his slanted eyebrows and hawk-like nose gave him a sharp, intimidating aura. Clearly, he was not someone to be trifled with. As before, Chu Xuan didn't rush to make his purchases but instead made his way to a tea house within Peace Market. He chose his seat carefully. Not only was it by the window, but it also offered a clear view of the square's north and south entrances. This allowed him to notice any disturbances quickly. While sipping tea, Chu Xuan listened attentively to the conversations of other cultivators using a technique that enhanced his hearing. Soon, he had gathered information about the recent events. 10 days, Chu Xuan smiled lightly. He had spent 3 months on Blue Star, but only 10 days had passed on Mystic Azure Realm. To the cultivators here, it seemed he had advanced from the 6th to the 9th level of chi refining in a mere flick of the fingers. This rate of progression, even among peerless geniuses, would be envied and unmatched. Chu Xuan's brow suddenly raised, his eyes flicking to a corner where an old man and a young boy sat. Their faces were unfamiliar to him. Upon closer inspection, he noticed traces of disguise techniques. More importantly, he overheard their conversation. "Senior Brother Wei, do you think Zhong Cheng will come? Is there a chance he has turned to the Divine Star Sect and become a traitor? That's why we're using disguises and waiting here instead of meeting him directly. We need to observe the surroundings first, don't you get it?" "Oh, I understand. It's 1:15 now, our appointed time is at 1:45, he should be arriving soon. Stay close and follow my lead when the time comes." "All right." In almost an instant, Chu Xuan guessed the identity of the two men. They were Qi refining stage disciples from the Infinite Sect, Chen Ji and Wei Hua. As for Zhong Chen, Chu Xuan remembered him too. Among the Qi refining stage disciples, Zhong was a notorious broker, best known for selling second-hand magical tools passed down from senior disciples. Chu Xuan's own flying sword was acquired through Zhong Chen. Since it was second-hand, it was cheaper by 10 to 20%. The last time Divine Star Sect raided the Wu family estate, it seems they survived and are still alive. And now they appear in Peace Market. I get it, they are still hiding with the Wu family, which suggests that the Wu family isn't wholly aligned with the Divine Star Sect. Chu Xuan tapped the tabletop lightly, sorting through his thoughts quietly and quickly organizing his reasoning. Going to Zhong Cheng to buy items? That's quite bold. Chu Xuan shook his head slightly. In times like these, anyone could turn traitor. Reconnecting with disciples separated from the Infinite Sect could lead not to the items needed but to an ambush by righteous cultivators. I can't stay in Peace Market any longer, I must leave immediately. Even if Zhong Cheng isn't a traitor, he might still attract unwanted attention. If they get tangled up with me, it would be troublesome. Chu Xuan stood up immediately. His relationship with Chen Ji and Wei Hua was that of senior brothers, merely casual acquaintances rather than close friends. In unclear and potentially dangerous situations, the first priority was naturally to ensure his own safety. However, as Chu Xuan's gaze swept past the window, he noticed a figure striding towards the entrance of Peace Market. The man carried a blood-stained package and emanated a fierce killing intent. Yet, his handsome face wore a warm smile, seemingly approachable. Two starkly contrasting temperaments manifested in one person. Chu Xuan sighed softly. Here it comes. Trouble had arrived, faster than he had anticipated. Chapter 27, Lend a Hand. The young cultivator, carrying dual swords on his back and a perpetual smile on his face, was known for this demeanor only among the Qi refining stage disciples of the Divine Star Sect. This was Ouyang Hao, ranked fourth among the inner disciples of the sect. In just 5 years since joining the sect, he had rapidly advanced to the 8th level of Qi refining. What made him most notorious was his merciless stance against demonic cultivators. He killed them on sight without hesitation. After the 5 sects campaign against demons, 3 of the top 10 inner disciples of the Infinite Sect had fallen to Ouyang Hao. Such was his reputation that the remaining disciples of the Infinite Sect would rather face a Foundation establishment stage cultivator than encounter Ouyang Hao. With righteous cultivators, there might be a chance of survival, but Ouyang Hao was known for his lethal resolve. The Grand Elder of the Divine Star Sect had praised Ouyang Hao profusely, declaring that once Ouyang Hao achieved Foundation establishment, he would take him as his direct disciple. Ouyang Hao was indeed a rising star within the Divine Star Sect, with even those ranked above him in the Qi refining stage not entirely confident they could best him. His arrival at Peace Market was surely not for mundane shopping. Chu Xuan was not particularly worried about Ouyang Hao himself. With his current strength, defeating Ouyang Hao would not pose much difficulty. His concern was whether Ouyang Hao was accompanied by others, perhaps even a Foundation establishment stage cultivator from the Divine Star Sect lurking in the background. That would complicate matters significantly. After considering his options, Chu Xuan decided to hold his ground and adapt to the situation as it evolved. Click, clack. Ouyang Hao made his way directly toward the tea house. As a cultivator exited the tea house and recognized him, he exclaimed in shock, "Ouyang Hao." Ouyang Hao raised an eyebrow at the man and smiled, "Do you realize you've just ruined everything?" Before the cultivator could respond, Ouyang Hao swiftly drew his sword. With a flash of his blade, the man's legs were severed at the knees. "I don't know if you're associated with demonic cultivators, but I'll spare your life for now. We'll interrogate you later," Ouyang Hao declared, ignoring the man's screams as he hastened into the tea house. Inside, Chen Ji and Wei Hua, who had been anxiously awaiting Zhong Cheng's arrival and were vigilantly monitoring their surroundings, caught the commotion at the entrance. "Oh Yang Hao." The two exchanged a look of alarm and promptly stood up, leaping out of a nearby window to escape the impending danger. Chu Xuan remained seated, motionless, continuing his tea in quiet repose. Within mere moments, Yang Hao ascended to the second floor of the tea house. His gaze swept searchingly over each cultivator present. "What are you staring at?" An irate cultivator, unable to bear the scrutiny, barked sharply. Yang Hao, silent, drew his sword in response. A flash of the blade, the cultivator's right arm was severed cleanly at the shoulder. Amidst the disbelieving screams of the injured man, Yang Hao spoke coolly. "Yang Hao of the Divine Star Sect, pursuing the remnants of the Infinite Sect. Did anyone leave just now?" His sword now pointed ominously at the other shoulder of the man, as if indicating that a similar fate awaited the other limb should he remain uncooperative. "Yes." Two people jumped out the window and ran south, the unfortunate cultivator cried out in terror. Frowning, Yang Hao dashed to the window. True enough, he saw two figures mounting their flying magical tools, making their escape. Without hesitation, Yang Hao hurled a flying sword into the air and mounted it, pursuing them swiftly. The cultivators inside the tea house were shaken, their discussions buzzing with questions about who Yang Hao was to act so audaciously. Upon learning his identity, they collectively gasped, falling silent. This was the Divine Star Sect's Qi refining stage prodigy, almost assured of becoming a direct disciple of the Grand Elder. With such stature, who would dare provoke him? The cultivator, whose arm had been cut off, grimacing in pain, quickly tried to stop his bleeding. It was a bitter pill to swallow when he had no choice but to endure internally. Chu Xuan, observing all, remained seated, pondering the situation. It appears Yang Hao is alone. What a ripe target. After a brief contemplation, Chu Xuan mounted his own flying sword and stealthily followed. In the sky, three streaks of light chased each other. Chen Ji and Wei Hua, equipped with only mid-grade flying magical tools, were soon at a disadvantage. Yang Hao, as a favored genius of the Divine Star Sect, possessed superior magical equipment. His flying tool was of the highest quality, accentuating the disparity. Naturally, it didn't take long for Yang Hao to catch up to the duo. "Scum of the Infinite Sect, meet your demise." Yang Hao's face maintained a warm smile, yet his tone was vicious. He brought his fingers together and thrust forward repeatedly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several spear-like spirit fingers shot forth. This was the renowned Spirit Sword Finger, a mid-tier spell of the Qi refining stage from the Divine Star Sect. Its advantages were low spiritual Qi consumption, long attack distance, and rapid execution. The downside was its moderate power. However, it was most suitable for pursued attacks. In an instant, the Spirit Sword Fingers surged forward like a torrential curtain of rain. The two opponents' pupils constricted as they dodged with all their might, yet they could only evade some of the attacks. Their space to maneuver dwindled rapidly, soon leaving them no room to escape. They were forced to conjure a sinister, small shield behind them. This was the Mystic Nether Shield, a defensive spell essential for the Qi refining stage disciples of the Infinite Sect. However, being merely at the 4th level of Qi refining, how could they compare to the 8th level Yang Hao? The Mystic Nether Shield managed to block two Spirit Sword Fingers before shattering abruptly. The remaining Spirit Sword Fingers struck mercilessly, blasting their flying magic tool and splitting it in two, causing them to plummet towards the ground. Yang Hao pursued them without hesitation. Moments later, in a clearing within the forest, Yang Hao, looking at the pale-faced Chen Ji and Wei Hua, smiled. He casually threw a blood-stained bundle at them. A severed head rolled out from the bundle, the eyes of Zhong Cheng wide open in death. I encountered this young man while on a mission. He really was stubborn, refusing to speak to the very end. I severed his limbs and threw him into an anthill to suffer the agony of thousands of bites until he finally spoke, Yang Hao stated indifferently. Upon witnessing Zhong Cheng's ghastly death, Chen Ji and Wei Hua felt an overwhelming sense of despair. You two are truly weak, sneered Yang Hao. You couldn't even handle a single move of my Spirit Sword Finger. Capturing you and taking you back to the sect wouldn't even earn me much merit. It would be easier just to kill you. Smiling, Yang Hao drew the twin swords from his back. Suddenly, a gust of wind struck. His expression shifted slightly as he swiftly drew his sword and slashed behind him. Clang! A stone was abruptly sent flying. Approaching him was a cultivator with a face as fine as white jade, though his features were not gentle but rather sharp and piercing. The appearance of this pale-faced man momentarily stunned Chen Ji and Wei Hua. Could someone actually be coming to their rescue? You seem somewhat capable. Which scum of the Infinite Sect are you? Ouyang scrutinized the newcomer, Chu Xuan, and inquired. He felt a hint of threat emanating from this pale-faced man, a clear sign of formidable strength. Chapter 28, You've got it backwards. Chu Xuan replied with equanimity, I go by the name Xu Ming and do not shy from it. Ouyang offered a faint smile, Xu Ming. Good, you shall become the 25th soul to fall beneath my sword. Xu Ming. Chen Ji and Wei Hua exchanged a look of confusion. Xu Ming was still cultivating in the Wu family estate. How could he possibly be here? The person before them must be an Infinite Sect disciple, concealing his real name and assuming the alias of Xu Ming. Are you still watching? Go, Chu Xuan chided them with a glance. Chen Ji and Wei Hua exchanged a deep look, then quickly supported each other and left. Ouyang licked his lips, you let my two prey escape. You'd better put up a good fight, or I'll make you wish you were dead. With that, he suddenly swung his sword at Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan smiled lightly, you've got it backward. He waved his hand and Long and Bao suddenly appeared by his side, flanking Ouyang from both sides. From the palm of his hand surged a fierce streak of crimson, the blood steel wire. Ouyang eyes flashed with disdain. Divine Star Sect sword cultivators specialized in sword chi. Chi refining disciples cultivated Heavenly Star sword chi, which could cut through anything, nothing was invincible against it. To think you would use a mere Gu insect to counter my sword chi, I have already slain 3 such fools, Ouyang declared. His sword chi accelerated, seemingly about to sever the blood steel wire in an instant. He disregarded the 2 corpse puppets closing in from either side, eliminating this foolhardy demonic cultivator with a single strike would spare him any further effort, and the puppets would perish as a consequence. However, the next moment, he felt his sword chi strike what seemed like steel. Clang! To his shock, his indomitable sword chi was effortlessly blocked by the blood steel wire. Chu Xuan smiled faintly. After its transformation, the blood steel wire was harder than most metals. The blood steel wire could even withstand bullets, faster and more formidable than Ouyang sword chi. Blocking Ouyang sword chi was no daunting task. The blood steel wire, far from being repelled, emitted a streak of bloody light and wrapped around Ouyang wrists and ankles, blood binding. Clang! Caught unawares, Ouyang found his hands and feet momentarily bound. His anger was palpable. He had not anticipated that the Gu insect would possess such innate magical prowess. At that moment, Long and Bao launched their attack from either side. Long opened its maw wide and unleashed a terrifying corpse howl. The sound struck Ouyang like a sledgehammer to his soul, muddling his senses and scattering his thoughts. Spurred by the corpse howl, Bao let out a ferocious roar and activated its bloodthirst technique. Its claws relentlessly tore at Ouyang, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of gory gashes were rendered across his body. Blood spurted wildly, and flesh flew in disarray. Long, with a firm grip on its bone spear, thrust it forward. The spear pierced straight through the heart. Ouyang eyes bulged in utter shock. He had not foreseen such an abrupt end to the battle. His underestimation of the Gu's resilience had swiftly led to his entrapment and a swift, merciless death. He had no chance to retaliate, no opportunity to utter any last words. Life drained from him like water flowing from a broken vessel, and the cold embrace of death quickly consumed him. Chu Xuan gestured, recalling Long and Bao back into the corpse-nurturing tower. He gazed down at Ouyang corpse, shaking his head. The man had been strong, yet his arrogance had been his downfall. Without any knowledge of his opponent's capabilities, he had left himself completely unguarded against the corpse puppets attacking from either side, foolishly believing his sword chi could achieve a swift kill. Is this what they call a genius? Chu Xuan chuckled softly and casually scooped up Ouyang's body into his storage bag. The body of a chi refining 8th level cultivator was a valuable resource, perfect for refining blood beads or feeding to his corpse puppets. With that, he swiftly departed from the scene. At the Wu family estate, Chen Ji and Wei Hua returned to their usual residence through a side gate, finally letting out sighs of relief. Liu Jingxian was in the courtyard, discussing cultivation challenges with Xu Ming, Bai Fen, and others. Seeing the grim expressions on Chen Ji and Wei Hua's faces, he guessed something was amiss and promptly inquired about their ordeal. Chen Ji and Wei Hua did not conceal any details, recounting the events that had unfolded. Liu Jingxian's brow furrowed deeply. Xu Ming, taken aback, exclaimed, "That person claimed to be me. Could it be one of our Infinite Sect disciples?" Wei Hua nodded affirmatively. "It's very likely," and he seemed quite confident, showing no fear even against Ouyang Hao. Xu Ming shook his head subconsciously. "Impossible. The top 10 inner disciples are either dead or have defected. None could match Ouyang Hao." "How odd that someone would dare to rescue you," Liu Jingxian remarked, his face showing a keen interest. "Regardless, this person is most likely a disciple of our Infinite Sect. It's surprising that such a disciple was overlooked. If he dared to confront Ouyang Hao, his strength must be considerable." Liu Jingxian paced back and forth, clearly pleased. Xu Ming, somewhat envious, commented, "Who knows? Maybe he just got carried away in the heat of the moment." Wei Hua scoffed, "If it were you, would you get carried away and save us?" "I doubt it. You'd probably have run away at the first chance." Xu Ming's face turned red with embarrassment, but he found himself unable to refute. After pondering for a moment, Liu Jingxian said, "Where did Ouyang Hao catch up to you? Take me there immediately. We cannot let anything happen to such a disciple." Chen Ji and Wei Hua immediately nodded in agreement. Moments later, the trio arrived at the clearing in the woods. The area was deserted, indicating that the battle had clearly concluded long ago. Could the fight have moved to another location? Chen Ji scratched his head. Liu Jingxian shook his head, pointing at the bloodstains, fragments of flesh, and pieces of robes on the ground. "The battle has ended. These robe fragments belong to a Divine Star Sect Qi refining stage disciple. The blood and flesh were likely left by Ouyang Hao. There's a Densian Qi in the air, likely from summoning corpse puppets to fight." Liu Jingxian thought for a long time. Ouyang Hao likely escaped with severe injuries. Chen Ji and Wei Hua exchanged looks of surprise that the cultivator could have inflicted such damage on Ouyang Hao. What kind of power must he possess? Ouyang Hao's injuries will certainly prompt the Divine Star Sect to conduct another round of searches in this area. "Stay indoors these next few days and remain within the estate," Liu Jingxian instructed sternly. "Yes, we will heed Uncle Master's teachings," Chen Ji and Wei Hua nodded. "And what about you, Uncle Master?" Wei Hua inquired. Liu Jingxian replied earnestly, "That disciple must still be near Peace Market, and being alone, he is undoubtedly in grave danger. I must find him." Chen Ji and Wei Hua felt a surge of admiration. They had chosen to follow Liu Jingxian because of his humanity. They had not expected that even for a disciple whose name they did not know, Liu Jingxian would be willing to risk so much. Chapter 29, Heavenly Star Flying Sword. Chu Xuan returned to the cave that had been his previous abode. He moved a large rock back in place to seal the entrance and set up various arrays before opening Ouyang Hao's storage bag. A cursory glance nearly blinded him with its brilliance, indeed befitting a prodigy cherished by the Grand Elder of the Divine Star Sect. The contents of the bag were dazzling. The first thing that caught his eye was a small mountain of small spiritual stones. A rough count revealed there were at least 1,000. Beside these were numerous medium spiritual stones, adding up to over 20. Apart from these spiritual stones, there were several tomes kept in jade boxes, all scriptures and magical techniques of the Divine Star Sect, albeit solely for sword cultivation. Chu Xuan flipped through them briefly without much interest. Also in the bag were 2 magical tools. The first was the flying sword that Ouyang Hao had wielded. Named the Heavenly Star Flying Sword, it was a high-grade flying magical tool capable of covering 1,000 li in an hour, consuming only 1 small spiritual stone for 3,000 li, and capable of increasing speed for short bursts by consuming more stones. In the cultivation world perspective, I would use ancient Chinese units. 1 li equals 0.5 kilometer. 1 zhong equals 3 meters. In contrast, Chu Xuan's own flying tool could only cover 300 li in an hour, consuming a small spiritual stone for every 1,000 li without any acceleration feature. The comparison left his own tool utterly outclassed. The second item was a golden wooden shield. Despite being made of wood, it felt exceptionally hard to the touch. This tool, named the Golden Wood Shield, was crafted from Vajra wood and was also a superior grade magical tool. Its defensive capabilities ranked among the top of all superior defensive magical tools. These two items perfectly filled the gaps in Chu Xuan's current arsenal. Is that a Foundation Establishment pill? Chu Xuan continued to search and was astonished to find a Foundation Establishment pill in a corner of the storage bag. He was surprised, given Ouyanghao's financial capabilities, he should not have been able to afford such a pill. The origin of the pill was thus clear. It must have been bestowed by the Grand Elder of the Divine Star Sect for Ouyanghao's future breakthrough. It seems the Grand Elder indeed highly valued Ouyanghao, Chu Xuan mused with a smile. Nobody knew that he was the one who had slain Ouyanghao. Even if the Grand Elder was enraged and wished to tear the murderer apart, he would find no trail leading to Chu Xuan. However, a single Foundation Establishment pill is probably not enough to liquefy my spiritual qi and help me step into the Foundation Establishment stage, Chu Xuan reflected. A Foundation Establishment blood pill is still necessary. He did not consider himself to possess the exceptional aptitude required to step into the Foundation Establishment stage with just one pill. Let's refine these immediately, converting them into my own combat strength, he decided. He secured the Foundation Establishment pill and extracted the Heavenly Star Flying Sword and Golden Wood Shield from the bag. Both items bore Ouyanghao's essence blood imprint, a mark made by sacrificing one's essence blood to embed a personal trace into a magic tool, ensuring it could not be easily taken by others during battle. Better than an essence blood imprint was a soul blood imprint, which involved both the soul and essence blood, but that was a technique only accessible at the Foundation Establishment stage. At his current level, Chu Xuan could only use the essence blood imprint. He pressed his fingers against the surface of the Heavenly Star Flying Sword, injecting a wisp of spiritual qi to locate the essence blood imprint within. His spiritual qi eradicated it. Within about a quarter of an hour, he had completely erased Ouyanghao's remaining essence blood imprint. Now truly ownerless, the Heavenly Star Flying Sword was ready for his use. Chu Xuan tapped his chest, drawing out a drop of his own essence blood, and let it fall on the sword's surface, beginning the refinement process. The process took 3 hours in the utter darkness of the cave, Chu Xuan's eyes gleaming with sharp vitality. Success. He felt a tight connection to the Heavenly Star Flying Sword. He proceeded to similarly refine the Golden Wood Shield. After consecutively erasing essence blood imprints and forcing out his own essence blood to refine 2 superior grade magical tools, Chu Xuan felt somewhat exhausted. He immediately began meditating to rest. After a whole night, he slowly awakened and his spirits rejuvenated. News of Ouyanghao's death probably hasn't spread yet. While the Divine Star Sect hasn't noticed, I should quickly return to Peace Market and make the necessary purchases. Chu Xuan hastened towards the Peace Market. This time, he disguised himself again, taking on the appearance of a gaunt man with deeply sunken eyes, a look that suggested excessive consumption of medicinal pills and a body laden with residual poison. As he walked past various stalls set by itinerant cultivators intending to buy spiritual herbs from the 100 Herbs Pavilion, he noticed a stall that seemed amiss. Astonishingly, it displayed several qi refining stage scriptures from the Infinite Sect, including the blood spirit technique he practiced. Additionally, most of the materials needed to concoct the Foundation Establishment blood pill were also somewhat available there. Chu Xuan immediately sensed something was off. With the Infinite Sect fallen, who could possibly offer so many spiritual herbs at once? It must be a trap, perhaps set by orthodox cultivators fishing for prey. Should he bite, his life might well be forfeit. Without betraying his suspicions, Chu Xuan quietly walked away. However, the white-haired stall owner suddenly spoke up. Fellow Taoist, these are all top-quality goods, won't you buy something? Chu Xuan's internal alarm intensified. No, thank you. The stall owner chuckled strangely. What about the blood evil demon refining scripture? Don't you want to buy that either? Chu Xuan started, turning sharply to look at the stall owner. This voice didn't come through his ears, it had resonated directly in his mind. This was a telepathic message. Telepathy was a technique that only Foundation Establishment stage cultivators could employ, allowing private communication that only the parties involved could hear. Unless someone far surpassed their cultivation levels, no one could intercept their conversation. The mention of the blood evil demon refining scripture was even more significant. It was a foundation establishment stage technique of the Infinite Sect. The blood spirit technique and 2 other chi refining stage techniques were actually preliminary techniques to the blood evil demon refining scripture. Uncle Master Liu. Chu Xuan instantly guessed the identity of the speaker. A Foundation Establishment Stage cultivator, knowledgeable about the formula for the Foundation Establishment pill and in possession of Infinite Sect's Foundation Establishment Stage techniques, it could only be Liu Xuan. The white-haired stall owner smiled. "Follow me." He gestured with his hand, storing the items in a storage ring, and then walked unhurriedly towards the exit of Peace Market. Chu Xuan hesitated but still followed. Moments later, the 2 of them, like any other cultivators, walked out of Peace Market. Only when they reached a secluded area did Liu Xingxian stop. "Are you Zhong Jingxing or Liu Jinping?" he asked quietly. Chu Xuan could not help but smile wryly. These 2 were respectively the 12th and 13th ranked disciples within the inner gate of the Infinite Sect, formidable rivals during his struggle to secure the 10th position in the inner gate. However, by now, they had vanished without a trace, likely dead in some forgotten corner. Chu Xuan bowed respectfully. "Chu Xuan, at your service, Uncle Master Liu." Liu Xingxian, hearing this name, was quite astonished. "Chu Xuan. The 10th-ranked Chu Xuan of the inner gate. I would never have imagined that the person who saved Chen Ji and Wei Hua and defeated Ouyang Hao could be you." Chu Xuan chuckled lightly without offering an explanation. During the destruction of the Infinite Sect, he was only at the 4th level of chi refining. It was his extensive knowledge in GU insects and poison techniques that had secured his place as the 10th inner gate disciple. It was no wonder Liu Xingxian hadn't guessed it was him. Chapter 30, Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture. Liu Xingxian appraised Chu Xuan as if seeing this chi refining stage junior for the first time. "What realm have you reached by now?" "At least the 8th level of chi refining, right? I remember, back when the Infinite Sect was still standing, you were at the 4th level." "I didn't expect such significant progress," he said, his smile genuine. Chu Xuan nodded, though he did not admit that he had actually reached the 9th level of chi refining. If Liu Xingxian thought he was at the 8th level, then so be it. Keeping some of his strength hidden was never a bad idea. "Very good. Among the chi refining stage disciples, you have the highest realm." Liu Xingxian's joy deepened. "Come with me to the Wu family estate. I will support you fully in your effort to reach the Foundation Establishment stage." Chu Xuan immediately shook his head. What a jerk. He had to travel to the Blue Star periodically. How could he be around Infinite Sect disciples all the time? Constant contact with others would inevitably lead to the discovery of his secrets. His ability to freely travel between the Mystic Azure Realm and the Blue Star was his most crucial ace, which he could not afford to reveal to anyone. Liu Xingxian was taken aback. He had offered such substantial support, yet Chu Xuan had declined. His expression turned slightly sour. Chu Xuan quickly explained, "Uncle Master Liu, I am confident in my ability to concoct the Foundation Establishment blood pill and advance to the Foundation Establishment stage on my own. But if you were to expend resources to aid me in advancing, it might cause discontent among the other senior brothers and disciples. The Infinite Sect has fallen, and those of us who remain should work together in harmony. It would not be right to disrupt the unity of the sect's disciples for my sake alone." Liu Xingxian's eyes widened, touched by the sentiment. What a fine prospect. Strong-willed, independent, powerful, and considerate of others. How had he not noticed such a disciple before? If it were the old days, when the Infinite Sect was still flourishing, he would have surely asked his own master to invest heavily in Chu Xuan's cultivation. Resources would have been poured into helping him reach the Foundation Establishment stage swiftly. In doing so, the Infinite Sect's core Foundation Establishment stage strength would have been bolstered. But now, such support was difficult, all too difficult. As Chu Xuan had mentioned, the demonic cultivators were now weak, and resources were limited. Distributing all to Chu Xuan would naturally diminish the cultivation resources available to other disciples. People do not complain about scarcity as much as they complain about inequality. Favoring one person with resources over time would inevitably lead to discord and fragmentation among the disciples, which would be harmful in the long run. Liu Xingxian struggled to find words. Chu Xuan bowed again. I wish to rely on my own abilities. Please do not mention it further, Uncle Master. Liu Jingxiang sighed deeply. If the sect was still in its prime, I would never stand by and watch such a talent be neglected. Chu Xuan felt relieved. Liu Jingxiang's words meant that he would no longer insist on him staying with the other Infinite Sect disciples. Chu Xuan then said, however, I indeed need the subsequent techniques. May I know what price Uncle Master desires for the Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture? Liu Jingxiang chuckled. No need to talk about the price. I have already transcribed several copies of the Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture and can give one to you directly. However, I still need to consider the needs of the sect's disciples. Do you have any blood beads? 100 blood beads and the transcribed Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture is yours. Chu Xuan was greatly moved. The Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture was a foundation establishment stage technique, and even a transcribed copy would require 1,000 sect contribution points to exchange, equivalent to at least 2,500 small spiritual stones. 100 blood beads amounted to only 200 to 300 small spiritual stones. Liu Jingxiang had deeply discounted the price of the technique, almost giving it away. However, even with 100 blood beads, Chu Xuan did not immediately produce them. He possessed them, but showing his hand too readily was unwise. After all, one must always guard against revealing too much, as human intentions can be hard to predict. Chu Xuan looked troubled. Uncle Master, I only have just over 50 blood beads. Can I make up the rest with spiritual stones? Liu Jingxiang waved his hand. 50 is also fine. I don't really need them. They are mainly for the cultivation use of Qi refining stage disciples. Chu Xuan nodded and handed over the items. Liu Jingxiang took out the transcribed Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture and handed it to Chu Xuan. Go now, Liu Jingxiang said sullenly. With Ouyang Hao having escaped severely injured, the Divine Star sect will surely start a new suite near Peace Market. Take care, and if you really can't hold out, come find me at the Wu family estate. Chu Xuan paused. Ouyang Hao had escaped injured. The man's body was lying quietly in his storage bag. Chu Xuan didn't correct him but simply nodded. Then, the two parted ways. At the Wu family estate, Liu Jingxiang removed his disguise, his expression wistful. Such a promising young cultivator, yet he couldn't keep him close for guidance. As Liu Jingxiang returned, disciples like Chen Jiyi, Wei Hua, Xu Ming, and Bai Feng gathered around him eagerly. Uncle Master, did you find that disciple? Xu Ming asked hastily. Liu Jingxiang smiled. I did. Who is it? Everyone asked curiously. Liu Jingxiang glanced oddly at Xu Ming. You know him? Xu Ming was taken aback. I do. Chen Jiyi, Wei Hua, Bai Feng, and the others were puzzled. Liu Jingxiang laughed heartily. I won't keep you in suspense any longer. It's Chu Xuan. He's now reached the 8th level of Qi refining. Upon hearing this, Xu Ming's eyes widened, and he was speechless for a long time. He had been training harder than ever, still struggling just to reach the 6th level of Qi refining. And Chu Xuan, whom he had considered of mediocre talent, had reached the 8th level. Impossible. Chen Jiyi, Wei Hua, Bai Feng, and the others were also stunned. They couldn't fathom how Chu Xuan's cultivation could have advanced so dramatically. The Infinite Sect had fallen less than a year ago, and yet Chu Xuan had soared to the 8th level of Qi refining. Suddenly, Chen Jiyi recalled something and hesitantly said, last time we saw those 3 dead Divine Star Sect disciples, could it have been senior brother Chu who killed them? Liu Jingxiang raised an eyebrow. That's very possible. With the capabilities of the 8th level of Qi refining, he could have swiftly eliminated those 3 if he caught them off guard. Chen Jiyi exclaimed with joy, Xu Ming, it's like senior brother Chu saved our lives. Xu Ming's face darkened. He had always believed that with hard work, he could surpass Chu Xuan. Hence, he hadn't regarded Chu Xuan as very formidable. Now reality had slapped him hard. Chu Xuan was not only formidable, but he had far surpassed him. Wei Hua, Bai Feng, and the others expressed their envy. Senior brother Chu must have had some incredible fortune to advance so rapidly. We are really envious of him. Liu Jingxiang pulled out a storage ring. Here are 50 blood beads. You guys split them evenly. This is also a resource that Chu Xuan brought, he added. Chen Jiyi and the others excitedly accepted the blood beads. You don't want any? Wei Hua asked Xu Ming curiously. Xu Ming looked at the bright red blood beads, feeling a lump in his throat. If you don't want them, we'll just divide them up, and each of us will get one more, Chen Ji chuckled mischievously. I'll take them, Ming said through gritted teeth, snatching the blood beads. Chapter 31, Selfless Chu Xuan. Liu Zhenxian remained non-committal towards Ming's demeanor. It was normal for there to be minor friction among disciples, and he had no desire to waste time on such trivial matters. Yanghao was injured and repelled by Chu Xuan. Once again, the Divine Star Sect will undoubtedly conduct a thorough investigation of the peace market and its vicinity. During this period, you all must hide well. Without my orders, stay in the secret chambers and do not come out, Liu Zhenxian commanded sternly. Yes, the disciples nodded in agreement. 10 days later, as expected, cultivators from the Divine Star Sect arrived at the peace market to investigate Yanhao's whereabouts. The group was notably large, including 3 Foundation establishment stage elders and more than 10 Qi refining stage disciples. These cultivators turned peace market and the surrounding area upside down. Even the local cultivators dared not venture onto the streets, fearing the wrath of the Divine Star Sect cultivators. The investigation continued for 3 days. Even Wu Teng, a Foundation establishment stage cultivator from the Wu family, was brought in for questioning. However, despite their efforts, they discovered little substance and left in a huff. Wu Teng returned to the Wu family estate and immediately sought out Liu Zhenxian. Liu Zhenxian was puzzled. Brother Wu, it was just Yanghao getting injured. Yet, the Divine Star Sect spent 3 full days investigating here. Injured? He's missing. It's as if he's dead. Which disciple from your Infinite Sect was responsible for this? Wu Teng responded irritably. To think someone dared to kill a person favored by the great elder of the Divine Star Sect. Missing? Liu Zhenxian exclaimed in surprise. Wu Teng sighed. If it weren't for Yanghao's disappearance, would they have dispatched 3 Foundation establishment stage elders and over a dozen Qi refining stage disciples to investigate? If not for my extensive experience, the Wu family estate might have been turned inside out. Liu Zhenxian scratched his head, perplexed. This was not as he had imagined. He had always thought that Chu Xuan had merely injured Yanghao, who, knowing he was no match, had fled. But now, it seemed that was not the case. Chu Xuan had outright killed Yanghao and even taken his body. This revelation made him realize he had underestimated Chu Xuan. Chu Xuan's true realm might very well be the 9th level of Qi refining. Brother Liu, I can't handle this much longer. You must inform your disciples not to cause any more trouble. I have always served as a secret informant for the Infinite Sect, passing on information about the Divine Star Sect. I cannot withstand their repeated investigations. If it comes to it, you'll have to leave and find another place, Wu Teng said helplessly. Liu Zhenxian nodded repeatedly. All right, Brother Wu, rest assured, I will certainly speak to them. He returned to the courtyard where he resided and overheard Chen Ji, Wei Hua, and others discussing in low voices. Yanghao is dead. It's said that he disappeared, not died. What's the difference between missing and dead? Didn't the Divine Star Sect dispatch 3 Foundation establishment stage cultivators to investigate? Who killed Yanghao? Could it possibly be senior brother Chu Xuan? Seeing Liu Zhenxian return, several disciples quickly rose to greet him. Liu Zhenxian sighed lightly. You all know already. Chen Ji nodded. The news is buzzing everywhere. Even though we stayed within the estate, we learned of it from the servants of the Wu family. Liu Zhenxian smiled helplessly. It seems Yanghao is indeed dead. It appears I still underestimated Chu Xuan's strength. He must have been the one who killed Yanghao and even took his body away. Wei Hua, Bai Fen, and the others' eyes widened in shock. Chu Xuan's stature in their hearts instantly soared, nearly reaching the same level as Liu Zhenxian. Yanghao had slain so many Qi refining stage disciples of the Infinite Sect. They harbored both hatred and fear towards Yanghao. Now that Chu Xuan had avenged those fallen disciples, their hearts swelled with joy, a most natural reaction. Xu Ming's expression, however, was less than pleased. He felt the gap between himself and Chu Xuan widening further. Unable to contain himself, Chen Ji asked, Uncle Master Liu, why not ask senior brother Chu to join us too? Having him with us would surely be reassuring. Liu Zhenxian replied helplessly, "I wish I could," but he refused. "Now, I regret not insisting more firmly on him staying." But Chen Ji and the others were shocked. Chu Xuan was too audacious. Even a personal invitation from Liu Zhenxian was declined. Liu Zhenxian continued, "Chu Xuan knows that resources are scarce. If I were to favor him with more cultivation resources, it would inevitably lead to discord among the disciples. So, he simply chose not to join, intending to rely on his own strength to attempt the foundation establishment stage." At these words, Chen Ji, Wei Hua, Bai Fen, and the others fell silent, even moved by his decision. Chu Xuan. Senior brother Chu. How selflessly he acts. Xu Ming's face flushed with shame. He had once viewed Chu Xuan with such hostility, yet Chu Xuan had been considering their well-being all along. "More words are of no use, you should focus on your cultivation. I still need to continue investigating the whereabouts of our two elder ancestors," Liu Zhenxian sighed. The disciples nodded in agreement. The Golden Core period ancestors of the Infinite Sect had met various fates. Some had died in battle, some had surrendered, but two had escaped. Liu Zhenxian had never ceased in his efforts to track them down. If they could find these Golden Core ancestors, their safety would be far more secure. If necessary, they would quietly leave Yu country and find a remote place to re-establish the Infinite Sect. As long as a Golden Core ancestor was with them, there was still hope. Within the cave, Chu Xuan exhaled a turbid breath and opened his eyes. The blood beads he had brought with him were nearly completely assimilated. He could feel his danqian was incredibly swollen, having reached its limit. Yet, despite this, there was still no sign of the spiritual qi liquefying, a clear indicator that he was not an exceptional genius. Without consuming a foundation establishment pill, it would be challenging to truly make that leap. "Everything is in hand, it's time to leave," Chu Xuan murmured as he organized the spiritual medicines in his storage bag with a slight nod. He had not acquired these medicines from Peace Market. For caution's sake, he had used his flying sword to travel to a farther place, purchasing them in another market frequented by solitary cultivators. He even refrained from using the more powerful Divine Star flying sword, opting instead for the lower grade one he had before. Chu Xuan took out the blood mirror. The mirror's surface rippled with spiritual light, reflecting the scenes of the blue star. He connected his mind to it, and his body was immediately absorbed. The world spun around him, the scenery shifting in bizarre and peculiar ways. When clarity returned, he found himself standing on the rooftop of the Haodai Hotel. Roar! Hardly had he steadied himself when an excited growl echoed from nearby. Swoosh! Who rushed over in a swift stride and knelt before him like an affectionate puppy. Chu Xuan smiled and patted his head. "How have things been during my absence?" After a brief mental exchange with Hu, he nodded in satisfaction. "Excellent." 4 months had passed on Blue Star. Throughout this time, no one dared approach the Haodai Hotel. Hu had remained diligently on guard, venturing out only at set times to forage, never straying from the hotel. During these 4 months of foraging, Hu had successfully advanced to a level 8 corpse soldier. The 6 ordinary corpse soldiers and 2 dogs he led had shown significant growth. The medicinal garden behind the hotel thrived, and the various spiritual plants flourished. Some of the plants could already be used in medicine, provided the age requirement was not too strict. Of course, Chu Xuan's primary focus was still on the Life Soul flower. He approached the Wolf King, who was on the brink of death, its body emaciated. Yet, because Hu fed it a piece of zombie flesh daily, it clung to life. "Not bad, it's about to bloom." Chu Xuan expressed his delight. Chapter 32, A Proper Alchemist. A day later, Chu Xuan was deep in spell cultivation when he suddenly smelled an intoxicating fragrance. This aroma could nearly bewitch all living beings on Earth, not through physical effect but by enchanting the soul itself. Chu Xuan's face brightened with delight, and he quickly used his spiritual qi to block his nose and mouth, turning his gaze towards the Wolf King. As expected, the previously budding Life Soul flower had now burst into full bloom. The Wolf King, who had been barely clinging to life for over 4 months, died at that moment. Its soul and vitality were completely usurped by the plant growing from its body. The Life Soul flower was unremarkable in appearance. It lacked large petals and looked no different from many common wildflowers. Were it not for its soul-entrancing fragrance, it would likely be indistinguishable from any wildflower. 1, 2, 3 is 6 petals. Chu Xuan counted carefully 3 times, astonished. A life soul flower usually grew at least 2 petals, but it was rare to see more than 4. Even during the zenith of the Infinite Sect, when they cultivated these flowers in large numbers, they usually had around 4 petals. His luck was extraordinary to have cultivated a 6-petaled life soul flower. It's likely related to the virtue accumulated through my actions, Chu Xuan mused. Indeed, having virtue was beneficial. Such fortuitous occurrences could be influenced by the intangible virtue one possessed. Chu Xuan carefully took out a small jade scissors, meticulously snipping the life soul flower at the stem and storing it in a jade box. With this, a great weight was lifted from his heart. The life soul flower is a foundation establishment stage of spiritual medicine. This single flower, with its 6 petals, could be processed into the elixir for 3 foundation establishment blood pills. For many chi refining stage solitary cultivators of mediocre talent, this flower represented a stepping stone to the foundation establishment stage, an opportunity no one would want to miss. Even during the peak times of the Infinite Sect, when life soul flowers were cultivated in large quantities, their price remained exorbitantly high. If placed in the current market of peace market, this life soul flower could likely fetch tens of thousands of small spiritual stones. Having secured the most important ingredient, Chu Xuan quickly began processing the auxiliary materials. Some spiritual medicines needed to be dried to remove all moisture. Others had to be crushed into powder to maximize their effect. For some, the stems and outer shells were unusable, and only the extracted juices could be utilized. Chu Xuan had these steps memorized by heart. In less than an hour, he had all the auxiliary materials prepared. Finally, with solemnity, he took a pill furnace out from his storage bag. This furnace is called the 100 Hodes furnace, which he had purchased from another market town. The 100 Hodes furnace is merely a mid-grade magic tool. Typically, mid-grade magic tools are not very expensive, costing around 200 small spiritual stones. However, the crafting of a pill furnace differs entirely from that of ordinary magic tools, thus demanding a higher price. This 100 Hodes furnace had cost him nearly 400 small spiritual stones. Begin pill concoction. Chu Xuan rubbed his fingers together, ignited the spiritual wood with flames, and heated the furnace. For his first attempt at pill concoction, he did not start with the foundation establishment blood pill but chose a chi refining stage pill to practice with. Rejuvenation pill. Consuming this pill accelerates wound healing and is useful in many situations. At the foundation establishment stage, cultivators could take the greater rejuvenation pill, which has an even better healing effect. However, many foundation establishment cultivators find the greater rejuvenation pill too expensive and prefer to use the rejuvenation pill for healing. Practicing with the rejuvenation pill was most fitting for Chu Xuan. Once the 100 Hodes furnace was sufficiently heated, he placed the 3 types of spiritual medicines required for the rejuvenation pill inside. Midway through the process, the flames suddenly diminished, causing the pill liquid to solidify prematurely. Although Chu Xuan tried his best to salvage it, the pill liquid ultimately solidified into an awkward lump. Such a semi-finished product had weak medicinal strength and was rich in pill toxins. Chu Xuan didn't mind, it was his first attempt at a pill concoction, and failure was inevitable. He cleaned the furnace and restarted the process. The second furnace still ended in failure. But then the third and fourth attempts. Chu Xuan's speed and skill in producing rejuvenation pills improved with each attempt. Another cultivator might have felt frustrated and given up after 1 or 2 failures, but Chu Xuan was well prepared mentally. He had prepared materials for 40 batches of rejuvenation pills. By the 6th furnace, Chu Xuan's eyes lit up. Success. Although the rejuvenation pills were somewhat uneven and not aesthetically pleasing, they were clearly successful. A flash of insight sparked in Chu Xuan's mind. He immediately grasped that fleeting insight and eagerly continued his pill concoction. The 7th, 8th, and 9th furnaces all were successful. The rejuvenation pills produced were smooth, plump, and bright red, emitting a refreshing fragrance. They were nearly indistinguishable from the rejuvenation pills made within the Infinite Sect, perhaps even surpassing them. Chu Xuan was immensely pleased. The insight that had flashed through his mind was his profound understanding of the process of making rejuvenation pills. I never expected that after concocting just 6 furnaces of rejuvenation pills, I would attain such a profound understanding. Am I now truly a bona fide alchemist? Chu Xuan's face broke into a gratified smile. This was clearly another benefit brought about by the accrual of merit. He did not pause, instead beginning to experiment with a new type of pill. This time, he attempted the featherlight pill. After consuming this pill, one feels as light as a swallow, whether in pursuit or in flight. The effect is remarkably good. The speed of concocting the featherlight pill was faster than Chu Xuan had anticipated. Only one furnace failed, the second batch was a resounding success. Following this, Chu Xuan continuously tested several types of qi refining stage pills. 2 days later, Chu Xuan had achieved a 90% success rate in the pill concoction. This was a staggeringly high figure. Many foundation establishment stage cultivators might not achieve this. But Chu Xuan, through his relentless effort and that slight, almost negligible accrual of merit, had done it. Without a moment's rest, he rubbed his hands together, eager to leverage the momentum from concocting qi refining stage pills to succeed in producing the foundation establishment blood pill in one fell swoop. Foundation establishment blood pill. Begin concoction. Chu Xuan maintained his composure. Because the materials for the foundation establishment blood pill were limited to 3 portions. If he failed 3 times, he would have to resort to using the foundation establishment pill from Oyenghao for his foundation establishment, which carried a much lower chance of success. The first furnace. During the mid-phase of the concoction, the flames began to die down, and Chu Xuan added more spiritual wood. However, the flames suddenly flared up. The liquid within the pill furnace was burned off in a very short time, leaving behind a sticky, black mess at the bottom of the furnace. Why can't this 100 Hodes furnace have a non-stick feature? Chu Xuan muttered under his breath. But he wasn't disheartened. After cleaning the furnace, he began the second batch of the foundation establishment blood pill. This time, everything went smoothly, avoiding all issues, and he proceeded directly to the final step. The pill was formed. A rich, fragrant aroma permeated the air of the rooftop. Chu Xuan took a deep breath and immediately felt refreshed and invigorated, as if the speed of his blood flow had accelerated in that instant. Did it really succeed on the second batch? Chu Xuan was astonished. Was he really that skilled in concocting foundation establishment stage pills? It truly was thanks to his unyielding efforts. Chapter 33, Liquefied Spiritual Qi, The Path to Foundation Establishment. An hour later, the third furnace was also declared a success. Thus, Chu Xuan refined 2 foundation establishment blood pills. Adding on the 1 foundation establishment pill he had obtained from Oyenghau's storage bag, he now had 3 chances to challenge the foundation establishment stage. 1 foundation establishment pill can approximately increase the success rate of reaching the foundation establishment stage by about 30%. With 3 chances, I am certain to succeed. Chu Xuan was exceedingly solemn. The path to foundation establishment is the first threshold that all qi refining stage cultivators must overcome since embarking on the path of cultivation. Yet, of all qi refining stage cultivators, at least 80% are barred at this threshold. If foundation establishment pills were plentiful, Chu Xuan felt, the number of cultivators advancing to the foundation establishment stage could well be 70 to 80%. But the path of cultivation is so merciless. Resources are scarce, yet the number of cultivators pursuing immortality is ever increasing. If you advance, then I cannot. It is for this reason that demonic cultivators have come into being. Chu Xuan shook his head, casting these miscellaneous thoughts out of his mind. He handed over Oyenghau's corpse to the likes of Long, Hu, Bao, and other corpse puppets for consumption, and instructed them to diligently guard the Haodai Hotel. The flesh and blood of a qi refining 8th layer cultivator is a great nourishment for them. After consuming it, they should all be able to advance by about 1 level. Perhaps some wonder why not turn him into a corpse puppet. Because the condition for refining the puppet must be that he is alive. He then began to adjust his body and mind. Having continuously refined pills for several days, he felt mentally exhausted. In such a state, challenging the foundation establishment stage was clearly not an optimal choice. He would adjust everything to the best condition before attempting the breakthrough. 3 days later, Chu Xuan opened his eyes, his spirit tremendously revitalized. He took out a foundation establishment pill and swallowed it in 1 gulp. Buzz. Under the guidance of his will, the power of the medicine surged like a great river, violently coursing through his limbs and bones. Round after round, the medicinal power swiftly transformed into spiritual qi. The medicinal power contained in foundation establishment stage pills was far more formidable than that of the qi refining stage. The moment he took the pill, Chu Xuan even felt as if his entire body was on the verge of bursting. After running more than a dozen great heavenly circuits, the newly born spiritual qi, under his guidance, rushed straight towards his sea of qi. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Within the sea of qi, the spiritual qi had already expanded to its limit. Now, with a massive influx of spiritual qi, an intense sensation of swelling and pain emerged immediately. This was precisely the function of the foundation establishment pill. Pouring a substantial amount of spiritual qi into an already brimming sea of qi in one go, forcing the gaseous spiritual qi to liquefy. However, anyone familiar with physics knows that to liquefy a relatively inert gas requires immense pressure. If it doesn't succeed at once, it must be attempted again and again, until the medicinal power of the foundation establishment pill is entirely depleted. If the spiritual qi still cannot be liquefied, then more external medicinal power is required, meaning a second foundation establishment pill. Thus, the process is fraught with hardship. This is also the reason why many cultivators are unable to surpass this threshold. Chu Xuan said in meditation, repeatedly driving spiritual qi into his sea of qi. Failure, failure, failure. Initially, he could still feel intense pain. But as time passed, the pain gradually numbed. He seemed to be mechanically compressing the spiritual qi. 5 days later, at one moment, he suddenly felt his body loosen. The external pressure had vanished. Chu Xuan examined his own body. It wasn't that the spiritual qi had been liquefied. Rather, the medicinal power of the foundation establishment pill had been exhausted. Chu Xuan was not surprised. Instead, he picked up a foundation establishment blood pill between his fingers, slapped it into his mouth, and continued to compress the spiritual qi. Another 5 days passed. Just like before, the medicinal power was depleted again. Chu Xuan did not hesitate, he immediately consumed the second foundation establishment blood pill. He was neither disappointed nor discouraged. On the contrary, he was eager to try again. For some reason, perhaps it was the destiny ordained by the cosmos, or maybe it was merely a premonition. He always felt, this time, it would surely succeed. Sure enough, the moment he swallowed the foundation establishment blood pill, he felt an anomaly in his sea of qi. The formidable spiritual qi repeatedly collided and compressed. At the bottom of the sea of qi, those countless times compressed spiritual qi finally showed signs of liquefaction. At a certain moment, tiny droplets the size of rice grains appeared. Drip. The droplet fell to the bottom of the sea of qi. Its emergence seemed to trigger a chain reaction. Immediately, a large amount of spiritual qi began to liquefy. Drip, drip. In an instant, the bottom of the sea of qi accumulated into a small puddle. Within it lay quietly a dozen droplets of liquefied spiritual qi. Chu Xuan felt complete relaxation throughout his body. Boom. At this moment, his aura surged explosively. A powerful aura swept across the rooftop, radiating vigorously in all directions. Dust was cleansed away. Within a kilometer radius of the Haodai Hotel, a fierce wind blew at this moment. The returning Lon, Hu, and Bao was suddenly startled, looking towards the rooftop with reverence. At this moment, Chu Xuan suddenly opened his eyes. A flash of brilliance in his eyes, filled with an awe-inspiring power. Foundation establishment stage. He clenched his fists, his face alight with excitement. Foundation establishment stage cultivators can fly without the aid of external objects, utilizing light-escaping techniques. Of course, most foundation establishment stage cultivators still use external aids, as it doesn't consume their own spiritual qi. Additionally, there's an improvement in lifespan. Qi refining stage cultivators have a lifespan similar to ordinary humans, around 100 years. But for foundation establishment stage cultivators, their lifespan skyrockets to 200 years. Of course, the most important aspect is that foundation establishment stage cultivators can cultivate foundation establishment stage techniques and spells. They can also refine their lifebound magic tool. The so-called life-bound magic tool must be nurtured together with the soul and essence blood, making its manipulation as natural as moving one's own limbs. Its power far surpasses those ordinary magic tools that do not integrate the soul, providing a significant enhancement. Moreover, a life-bound magic tool shares the cultivator's fortunes and misfortunes. As the cultivator's realm advances, so too does the grade of the life-bound magic tool. It is akin to a piece of equipment that grows by itself. These factors are fundamentally why foundation establishment stage cultivators are far superior to chi refining stage cultivators. Life-bound magic tools are very important. I must carefully choose and refine one myself. Chu Xuan decided not to use a ready-made magic tool, opting instead to craft his own. Although this approach is more cumbersome, it ensures a deeper understanding and mastery of his life-bound magic tool. Later on, this would make it much easier to wield. Chu Xuan took out a copy of the Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture and carefully perused it. The first section of the Blood Evil Demon Refining Scripture discussed various methods for crafting magic tools. Soul-haunting spear, spirit-breaking knife, life-snatching sword, shadowless blade. Various magic tools flashed before his eyes. Some magic tools specialized in attacking the soul. Some excelled at breaking through spiritual chi. Some targeted the heart and vital organs. Some were traceless and ghost-like. Each had its unique uses. After much deliberation of his fighting style, Chu Xuan finally chose a magic tool. Evil Soul Chain, it shall be you. The Evil Soul Chain required yin evil steel as the primary material, supplemented by white bone bamboo, intoxicating vine, and 5 other materials. It would ultimately be imbued with a powerful, fierce soul. After 36 days of continuous refinement, the Evil Soul Chain could be forged. Once activated, it could not only unleash a powerful, soul-lashing flying chain but also command the fierce soul to battle alongside. A single magic tool, yet it could deliver double the effect. This was the formidable aspect of the Evil Soul Chain. Furthermore, as strength increased, an even more powerful soul could replace the existing one in the Evil Soul Chain, doubling its strength. Yin Evil Steel. If this were on the Mystic Azure Realm, under the threat of orthodox sects, it would indeed be difficult to find. But here, it couldn't be easier. Chu Xuan suddenly smiled.